All right. The reason I put a couple of these slides up here is to help remind me when I do my talk, whether I'm doing any type of a motivational speech, whether I'm doing a sales training for a large group, I always want to end with, hey, are there three action items that you're going to do as a result of this training? So I kind of want to start with that as in, as we go through this session today, try and pick out three things that you're going to start doing or stop doing as a result of the session that we do today. And I also want to remind you that if you go to the YouTube channel, there's a lot of other tapes and recordings, things that you can download and refer back to. So when you go to youtube.com/@ symbol and then 3D sales training, you'll have access to some of the other things that I've done, some of the other topics, and some of them can be motivational, some of them can be just sales training wise, but you have access to all those if you want to. And just remember, any training that I do, the reason the name of the company is 3D Sales Training and Speaking is because I believe that the patterns of three, our mind has been conditioned to accept patterns of three. Three is the lowest pattern that can provide enough information to our brain, but not being so complex that we struggle to remember everything. So when you're meeting with a client, I want you to remember that never present more than three pains or solutions to their problem. You know, can anybody really remember a 12-step program, or can you remember some of these long, lengthy steps of doing something? Always present in patterns of three. And it's not just an opinion from me. It is psychology that our mind can accept patterns of three. So when we talk about sales, today's session is a little bit about some techniques to help you in the process. And when I do any type of training, it is either on, are we doing the right behaviors? Are we doing the right techniques? And do we have the right attitude? So today is a little bit more on some of the techniques and actually questioning strategies. But sales optimism is being realistic about what's happening. And when I talk about this in front of a lot of groups, and especially salespeople that have to provide projections to companies, the optimism can be there, but it's got to be realistic about what's happening. Sales posturing is the ability to differentiate yourself to your prospects, to your clients. That's the posturing of what makes you different than your competition. And I want you to think about this. I put up this slide here because are we really selling or are we serving people? So your whole mindset should be, and maybe some of you have already got there already, you should be thinking about what can I do to service this client, not just sell them. Hopefully you'll remember one of my rules is, anytime that you're selling for your reasons instead of serving the client, you're a pushy salesperson. So we should always be thinking about how do we serve this person instead of how do we sell them. And I always want you to think about this. This is a discovery process. Does the client, will they discover that they need your product or service? I want you to think about, you're the tour guide taking them through this cave or whatever. You're going to lead them to the other end, but you're walking them through the process. You're not trying to convince them. And tomorrow at 2, I'm doing a session on reviewing my book. So anybody's welcome to the session at 2 p.m. tomorrow on messages from childhood that hold us back. And one of the things that holds us back is people have got this negative connotation from childhood in about sales, because most people think sales is about convincing, coercing, manipulating, tricking, conning somebody to buy something they don't need or want. Now, we might not have that connotation as salespeople, but definitely the prospect does. After all, you're a salesperson. You're trying to get me to buy something. And it's really a discovery process. So one of the techniques is you tell the client that, hey, this is going to be a discovery process. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. I hope it doesn't become offensive, but together we need to discover what some of your challenges and issues are. And we'll also discover whether I'm the person that can fill those and help you discover that you need change or you need my product or service. So always think about it that way, that you're walking the client through a discovery process, not trying to convince them to buy a product or service. So here's the first technique I want to have you think about. Excuse me for a second. If it ends with a period, if you're ending a sentence with a period, you're telling. But if it ends with a question, now you're selling somebody. So think about it that way. Are you asking somebody about their needs, about their desires, about how they think this product or service could solve their problem at a price they can afford? Or are you telling them? If you're telling, you're not selling. But if you do it with a question, yeah, now you really are selling. So think about it this way. Limit your talking on a sales call. Ask questions or tell stories, because if you ask a lot of questions, you can get your point across in a question format, and you can even tell stories, because people don't buy your product or service. People buy solutions to their problems. So you should be asking them along the way, hey, suppose I offered this, that would help you how? Ask questions that get the client to discover, yeah, I need this. Tell stories about what you've done for somebody else. Again, as I just said earlier, people don't buy your product or service, they buy solutions to their problems. So tell stories about how you've helped somebody else solve their problem. And I just want to ask a rhetorical question to some of you out there. Think about it right now. I'm not going to ask for anybody to open your mic if you don't want to, but what are 4 levels in the STEP system that are designed for the prospect? 4 levels in the system we're teaching you that are designed specifically for the prospect. Take a moment to think about the steps. And the reason I ask this question is to make sure that you guys even are thinking about the steps that we need to do before we even present to somebody. So 4 steps in my system. So let me give them to you. Hopefully they'll match what you've already either written down on your notes or what you're thinking. Okay. Size up the situation. That's the first step, because sizing up the situation is for the prospect. Because now we're trying to create this status of trusted advisor. If we're a trusted advisor, we need the client to understand what we're trying to do. So sizing up the situation where we're doing bonding and rapport, we're doing the upfront contract, that's for the prospect, because that way they build trust with you right away. The second step is the pain, the questions where we're asking them questions about the challenges and issues that they face, because what we're trying to do is find the real problem. Remember this, the first problem a prospect brings you is part of the problem, but it's never, ever, seldom the real problem, because prospects don't want to tell you how bad it hurts. They don't want to tell you, oh, I got to have this done. This has caused me this pain, because they're afraid if they tell you how bad their problem is, that they lose leverage, that you'll just rush in and solve it. So they hold their cards close to the vest. They don't tell you everything right away. That's why we need to stay in that questioning format so that we can really discover what the real problem is. Second step is the budget. When the pain is fresh in their mind is when we talk about their budget expectations. We're not talking about the final price of what your product or service is. We're talking about what the client expects to invest. And budget is more than just money. It's, will they invest the time, the money, and effort? And then can they make a decision to spend the money to fix the pain? So I want you to think about it that way. It's a discovery process. Can this client make a decision to spend the money to fix the problem because they like you? If you go backwards and think about, that's a discovery process. This will lead to prospects discovering why they need your product or service. All right, a couple other tips here. Never ask a verb-led question. Is, can, do, would, does. Those are things that lead and sound almost superficial, if you will, because every salesperson might ask the same thing. So ask questions that lead to, like, who makes this decision? What's this decision going to be based on? When do you need to make a decision? Where, at what level in the company is this made? Why would you make a decision? How do you go about doing these things? Those are the type of questions that really sound like I'm curious, and it's not obvious to somebody. For, a type A personality, a type B personality person, They want to know what, they want to know how. With a type B style person, they want to know when, they want to know who, they want to know how, why. But sometimes the type B person procrastinates, or they blame others for the problem, or they're the victim. So be careful about when you're talking to somebody who's a little bit more reserved as opposed to the type A personality is. If you push them too much into, is this something that you think would happen? Do you want to have this done by Thursday? Those are pushing them a little bit more in a direction that they don't want to go. And Dale Carnegie training, for example, was being able to hire only A players is important to you, isn't it? Well, of course, Mr. Moron. That's the old way of a lot of people. You want to save money, don't you? Well, of course, those are questions that salespeople have been taught to ask open-ended questions. But the problem is, in that situation, it comes across as, again, too obvious, of course. I'm guessing that you limit your hiring to only A players would be a lot better than being able to hire only A players important to you, isn't it? So think about how you're wording your questions so that the person isn't thinking, well, of course, you go, moron, of course I want to. Restructure how you ask questions that really come across as curious and skeptical, as opposed to trying to push somebody in a direction like this first question was. I'm guessing it's only a minor issue. This is a really good one when the client gives you a problem, and it maybe the first pain they give you. They say, well, we're always looking for a better price. Yeah, I'm guessing that's only a minor issue, though, right? It's probably not costing you as much as you were thinking. I don't understand how we would fit in. You know, HR has to be addressing this for you. Even some questions like, well, we're looking for faster delivery. Um, yeah, but your current vendor wants to keep you, don't they? So they're probably working hard to expedite delivery for you. Would that be fair to say? Those are questions where they now have to defend their position and say, no, they're not working hard enough. Whereas first, if they say, well, we're looking for expedited delivery from our vendor isn't giving me a delivery fast enough. Oh, let me tell you how we can fix that. You want us to do quicker, don't you? So again, your questioning strategy really needs to be a little bit, I guess standoffish isn't the right word, a little bit behind the eight ball, where you're not rushing in. Oh my God, let me tell you, I can get the client to say, hey, this is the problem. I had a client the other day who said, hey, my problem is I can't, I'm getting a lot of people that are procrastinating. I'm getting a lot of people that aren't answering us right away. They're not committing to us. They're putting us off. They're saying, call me in September. And he's expecting me to, oh, let me tell you what I teach you that would help that. And I go, wow, September, that's pretty quick. Isn't that better than saying call me next year? Any reason that they're waiting till September? What do you think's going on? And he started now thinking, okay, Wayne didn't hear me. So I got, no, I'm making 4 or 5 presentations a week and I'm not closing these people. See, now he starts getting emotionally involved because I didn't rush in right away trying to solve the problem. The more you dig deep, the more the client discovers they need your product or service. Sometimes I've had people say things like, hey, can you design a training program that we can start implementing within 2 months? That's a great question. Can I implement a training program? Any reason you wouldn't want it sooner? And so that's the opposite of what they expected you to say. So your questioning strategy has to be different, but it doesn't need to sound like the old Dale Carnegie. You want to save money, don't you? So again, I'm guessing that you limit your hiring to only A players, don't you? Be careful of tie downs. And what I mean by that is tie downs commit the client to something that maybe they're not ready to commit to. Aren't they? Isn't it? Shouldn't it? Maybe you should just end it by saying, I'm guessing that you limit your hiring to only A players, and then stop. Let the client fill in the rest of it instead of you trying to sound like you're giving them a tie down, because people then become naturally resistant to if you're pushing them into a sale. So again, I'm guessing that you limit your hiring only to A players. would that be fair to say, is not as much of a tie down as don't you or whatever. So be careful as far as trying to, your questions try and sound like you're pushing somebody as opposed to together, like I said several slides earlier, discovering together that they need your product or service. Now, one of the rules is never answer an asked question, or you start providing information that the client didn't ask for. But it is okay for you to ask a question that the client didn't. Hey, any reason you didn't ask me about this? One of the most common questions my clients have is this: any reason you didn't ask that question at that time? You get to do it. But remember, sometimes what happens, I did a training. If you don't remember, go back to the training on how I talk about what did we really hear. Is it an objection? The client is just making a statement. Sometimes they make statements and we think it's a question and we answer it incorrectly. So is it really an objection? Is it just a statement they make in? Is it an observation? Be careful to start providing too much information about what you think the client is asking. Remember, no mutual justification. Make sure we have some clarification about what this prospect is asking us about. Okay. What's the danger in asking this question? When do you plan on making a decision about? Anybody want to jump in at all? Again, this one is a little bit, sounds like you're trying to get them to commit right away. And then another one is, what keeps you up at night? This one has been going around quite frequently lately. Do you have a budget in mind for this project? Remember, we didn't put the right words in here. Like, do you mind sharing with me what your budget is? And then who are the decision makers? One of these statements is, I'm sounding like an amateur. I know you're busy. Well, of course I am. I work with busy people like yourself. I know you're trying to save money. Those are very amateuristic sales concepts, and they can come out to be like critical parent. I need you to answer me. You're wrong. I've got one client that if I told him today it was partly cloudy, he'd say it's partly sunny. It's one of these things where he's always telling people that they're wrong or tell me. Nurturing parent is, would you be so kind as to share with me what your budget might be, or if you've even thought about what your budget might be with this? Would you be surprised to learn? I find a lot of people struggle making a decision to move forward. Would you share with me how you're planning on going about to make a decision? Could you share with me? Remember, share is a word that Mama taught you. So let me go back a couple of slides when we talk about do you have a budget set aside for this, or who are the decision makers? Do you mind sharing with me what your budget is? Who, who is going to be influential in this? In the decision step, another way of wording this is, who else is impacted by the decision you're about to make, whether it's yes, go with me, or whether it's no? Who else is impacted by this? At what point if that person's impacted by your decision, I understand it's your decision, but somebody else is impacted, is there any reason we should bring that person into the process right now? So stay behind the eight balls when I'm saying sometimes, and make sure you sound a little bit more curious and skeptical. Is it lack of opportunities in the pipeline, or the lack of the opportunities in the pipeline itself? How do you know that? How do you feel about excuses? These are questions that I start to ask people sometime. And how do you track it? What are your people, held accountable for? Obviously, talking about questions in my world for sales training. How do you know that you're hiring the right kind of people? Instead of saying, hey, these are the type of salespeople that you should hire, I'm giving the client the respect that he already knows that, but I'm wondering, hey, how do you judge it? How do you track it? How do you understand that your people are being held accountable for certain projects or quotas or whatever it is? These are questions that make you seem, and actually are, curious and skeptical without making judgments already and rushing to premature presentation. Could there be a issue with call reluctance is what I'll ask sometimes people. And they'll say, well, yes. Why? Why do you think your people are reluctant to make their prospecting calls? Or no, are you sure that there's no issues with call reluctance? How do you know whether your people are dialing the phone and doing what they need to do? So I hope what you're getting out of this, the technique is you really need to ask questions because you don't know the answer to it. If you sound like you already know, oh, we dealt with this hundreds of times, you're just like every other client. What the prospects think is, no, I'm different. Don't treat me like everybody else. So ask a lot more questions that you really are curious and skeptical, and you want to know the answer to that. So again, I go into, how many of your people are failing to overachieve? Do you know why? Because, most, are you okay with that? Because remember, you can ask because up to 3 times before it gets annoying. Stay in the questioning format is what I'm trying to say before you rush to premature presentation. Again, how many of your salespeople are comfortable with your expectations? All. Are you sure? Most. How would you know that? None. Why not? These are ways to respond back to the client instead of jumping ahead with your next question. Stay in there because the client will, through your questions, realize that they've got pain that maybe they didn't have, thought they had before. So remember the 3 Ps though. Always ask for permission, protection, and potency. So let me give you an example. Permission. Can I take 20 seconds to tell you why I called, and then you tell me whether you want to talk more? Would that be fair? People can't get mad at you for doing something they gave you permission to do. So always ask, hey, do you mind if I ask you some more questions? I'm probably going to ask you more questions than my competitor because I didn't walk in here with a preconceived notion of what I could do to try and help you. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. I hope that's okay. Would that be fair? Is that all right? And so make sure that you ask permission and potency. While speaking with company presidents and CEOs about the business climate in the Phoenix Scottsdale area, 2 things have been fairly consistent. Not enough new businesses coming in. The business that is coming in isn't profitable as they would like. These probably aren't issues for you. See how that's different than what most salespeople would have done? They might have asked those questions, but when they would have said something like, and I'm sure we can help you with those issues. Let's find out whether this is really an issue. Bring up, hey, I'm finding that a lot of clients are in the home industry. They have a fear about working and hiring a new vendor because they don't know what they don't know. That's probably not an issue for you. You're probably really versed in what it's going to take to work with a new construction company. And let them say, no, I don't really know that much. The idea is you're doing the opposite. And for some of you who have been with me, we know that this is either a reverse or a pattern interrupt that gets more information. Remember, your job is to get information at the beginning, not give it. So I want you to think about it this way. Are you providing deliverables? Are you out there doing benefits and features? Let me tell you about the features of my company and convince you why my features are a benefit. Or are you talking about the symptoms, what's really going on here, so that now you can offer a product or service that solves the real pain instead of just talking about your deliverables? The idea at the beginning is we need to get a full understanding of what the symptoms are, and then we can talk about what's causing that pain and whether we have the ability to fix it or not. So, all right, I hope you got some. Now I want you to think about is this. What are 3 things you're going to start doing, or 3 things you want to work on, or 3 things you want to expand upon regarding these things? Is there 3 things that you would like, hey, I got to get better at structuring my questions. I got to get better at. Anybody want to volunteer?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Melissa.
So I definitely want to add that question, when do you plan on making a decision on which contractor to hire? Because sometimes we ask them about when they want to do a project, but I like that. When do you plan on making a decision on who to hire? So that we can get that. Um, Obviously staying in the questioning format before we rush to presentation. we talk a lot about our process, but we probably need to do a better job kind of asking questions, the who, what, and the good questions, the who, what, when, where, how. I didn't really think about that.
Okay.
Um, and then my third is basically, getting a full understanding of the symptoms before
Do
moving
you
on.
now, anybody here, Melissa Mark, are you ever saying to the client, hey, when do you need to make a decision, or do you do that now?
Yeah, I think we do, right?
Well, we ask them when they want to start their
Yeah.
project. We never say, when do you want to make a decision?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
And do you ever get any pushback on the way you ask it or not? Or
No, I mean, what people always love to talk about when they want to do a project, but I don't think I've ever really asked, when do you plan on making a decision on who to go forward with? So I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
so I want to show you guys, if you don't mind, before we'll come back to anybody else that has anything. I want to share if I can see this screen. See if this works. Are you seeing my screen now? I'm on an email. Okay. So let me show. I want to give you the tips. See if, what the heck, I mean, you think about this. Gentleman says, "Hey, we haven't made a decision on your hiring you. We want to wait until September." I will tell you that what this guy said to me earlier was one of his pains when I was talking to him. Hey, what would you hope I could do for you? Well, we're getting a lot of clients that are putting us off and they're procrastinating, not making a decision. Okay. So he pitches me on the same thing. He says that we're in a hiding pattern. I've not made a decision on who will begin or when. Would you follow up with me in September? Anybody ever have this where a client says, call me in 3 months, call me in a year? Okay. Here, let me show you how it's. I'd be surprised if anybody didn't have this where people put you off. I'm not sure I understand hiding pattern. For the rule is if I hear fat words, probably maybe we'll think about this in September. I want to repeat that. So the same thing here. What does a hiding pattern mean? Sounds like the same objection you're receiving from your prospects. Why hire a sales trainer? They can't overcome the same objections. This is what I ask my prospects. What would need to change in September for you to move forward? So that's one of the things I want you to respond to somebody when they try and put you off and say, well, let's look at this 3 months from now. Well, what would need to change for you to move forward in September? And what are the benefits of living with the issue for another 3 months? Right? Most guys will say, well, what's the negative? What's the problem with living it? What's the benefits? Because the benefit might be, well, now I can save up more money in 3 months to put the down payment out, or whatever it is. What's the benefit of waiting? Why are you waiting? And regardless of when you choose or who you choose to hire, so, would I be on your speed dial? So if somebody puts you off until September, say, well, we're probably going to wait until September. What's the benefit of waiting until September? And if in September things changed and you did decide to move forward with the prospect, why would we be on your speed dial? Why would we be the first company? Because what you're doing is you're getting the client says, well, because I liked how you did this. And now the client's saying it, not you. Instead of you saying, great, I'll wait till September. I'll call you in September. I'm sure you'll be happy if you hire us in September. And you're sounding like you're begging for the project. And then I said, typically a delay in addressing the issue is due to, one, it's a money issue. Two, it's an issue regarding the time or effort needed to fix the problem. Or simply, it's just not a priority. Could you do me a personal favor? Could you let me know which one it is or if it's something else? Then I will be happy to close the file for now, but I'll reopen it in September if you want. Okay. So what I'm trying to get you to think about is stop staying like that. Like if every other salesperson would do it, don't do it. What makes
Did he
you different?
respond?
Huh?
Did he respond?
Not yet. I just did that last
Can't leave
night.
us hanging.
I haven't done it yet. So my point is I have to be willing to die and lose the sale. Okay. I could have sat there and said, oh, great. Yes, I'll call you in September. Hope to move forward in September. But would that have shown me what the real problem is? I can't overcome an objection until I know what it is. So if you ever get that client that's, well, I'm going to wait until July of next year. No, I appreciate that. As much as I'd love to call you in July of next year, I'm not sure why. I mean, is this just a polite no, or what would need to change for us to have another conversation in the future in your world, time, money, or effort? And then if you did things change, would I be the first phone call? Or are you already got three other people you're looking at? Remember, the prospects don't always want to tell you no, because they want to be able to come back and get more free consulting from you. So and I've used this line too. If everyone's, hey, I'm getting the feeling you already have a vendor in mind you want to work with, and it's not me. Why am I feeling that way? Now they've got to, right? If they want to steal more consulting, they get to give up a little bit more. Well, I don't know why you're feeling that way. I'm looking at three other people and I go, I understand, but I got a feeling there's somebody you'd prefer, and you hope they come in with the best product and service. Well, yeah, I was hoping these guys, I worked with them in the past. Well, now I at least know that I can overcome the objection. I had to go, guys. I said, well, I'm waiting for another guy. I worked with him in the past, so I'm waiting for him to come in with his proposal. Sounds like he did a great job for you. Yeah, he did. Then I'm curious. I don't understand. Why are you looking at other vendors? I'm getting the feeling that if there's one thing that you wish he would do different, you're hoping some of the other people you're shopping will do it. And then you can go back to his other person and say, well, these guys will do it. Is that what's going on here? I mean, and if I'm just being used as a tool to help you beat up the vendor you want to work with, I'm okay with that. I'll give you tell me what price you want me to give you, and then you can go back and use it. No, no, no. And you start getting more information when you do it differently than everybody. But again, a lot of people have difficulty with this because they don't want to lose the sale. They think that, oh, I don't want to push them like that. I don't want to say that. I might not get it. When did you have it? Right? That's where you got to think about. I can't lose what I never had. Am I willing to die and lose the sale for a technique that might end up moving the client on, or at least giving me information so that I can do something to close the sale that I didn't have before? Okay. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. What other action items does anybody do as a result of today's session?
Um,
Go,
I'm still,
Janelle.
yeah, I'm still kind of working on how to fit in the budget and money talks. Because
Mhm.
in my head, when I feel like it's about time, it feels so awkward that I just avoid it. I mean, I don't tell them my price. I just kind of tell them, that I ask all the questions and I try to get all the information that I can. And then I just tell them, I'll go back to my office and I'll send you an estimate. And so they still don't really know. There's no range, there's no talk about it on either side. And it's just that awkward feeling, and I don't know how to get over that.
Is it an awkward feeling because you think they're going to come back and rebuff your price? They're going to say,
Yeah,
oh
or
my,
they're gonna, or they're, just the whole, champagne tastes on a beer budget kind of thing that I feel like a lot of people have, or they have different expectations of what graphic designers do, and why they charge what they charge. And it's like, oh well, because how like you can see something that looks so simple, and it's like, oh, I could do that, but they don't know what
okay.
went on behind the
Have you
scenes.
have you ever used or remember the technique? Do you mind if I share with you my greatest fear?
Okay.
Have you remember that at all?
Mm-mm.
So again, in Mark and Melissa's world, when you get somebody like in their world, if you meet with a husband and wife sitting in their kitchen going over some ideas of what they want, as you just after the bond report, hot enough for you? What about the game that you saw last night? And we move into it. What do you think the greatest fear is? What is their biggest fear? Their biggest fear is they don't know what they don't know. Their biggest fears are going to get ripped off by somebody that because they don't have the knowledge about the expertise that you have.
Mm.
Okay. So always ask somebody, hey, would you share with me as you start this process what your greatest fear is? One biggest fear is this, this, and this. So what do we need to talk about to help overcome that fear? All right. So works that way. But you can also do it on you. You can say, hey, Janelle, as we start this process, do you mind if I share with you my greatest fear?
Okay.
My greatest fear is that I'm going to want to do a fantastic job for you. I'm going to go back and try and design some things and present to you. But my biggest fear is that I'm going to design stuff that doesn't fit your budget. Do you mind if we just get that out of the way right now?
Okay.
Because most salespeople have difficulty being vulnerable. So when you are vulnerable or a little self-deprecating, you build trust with the client right away. Because what other salesperson says, hey, you know what my biggest fear is? My biggest fear is I just started with this company. I don't have a lot of product knowledge. And I'm afraid that that's going to hold us back. And you're going to look at me and say, oh, he's an amateur, because I'm going to probably bring in one of our experts on the subject matter, because I'm just learning. That's my biggest fear, is I'm going to lose this sale because I'm going to bring in one of our other experts instead of me sounding like I know it. And I hope that's okay with you, because I'd rather be honest with you about my expertise in the product line than make something up. Is that okay? So when you share your fears with somebody, it helps them. They want to help you. They want to nurture you. Oh, Janelle, you don't need to be worried about that. Yeah, my budget's $500. Try that one. Try. You mind if I share with you my biggest fears? My biggest fear, my issues have, because this has happened to you before, I assume, where
Yeah.
you go back and you design the champagne and they only have a beer budget.
Well, it's funny because I met with Joe yesterday, and it was that same thing. It's like we didn't talk about money. We just talked about all the things that he was thinking of, for adjusting a logo or using the same logo and just adjusting the name, and all these different scenarios of what he wanted to do, but we just never, and I came back and I did an estimate, but we just didn't talk about that. And I feel like I let you down.
Don't
Because
let
like,
me down.
I'm like, I should be able to do this. So, with other members of the BCC,
And
and I didn't.
he never asked the budget.
No,
So you didn't follow the steps. You didn't realize that, hey, to qualify to be your client, he's
right,
got to have pain that you can fix.
right,
He's got to have a budget to fix the pain, and he's got to be able to make a decision to spend the money to fix the pain.
right,
Always know those three. Does he? So you don't know if he qualifies to be your client. You might go back and do a proposal, and then he comes back and says, oh, that's way too much.
right, right. So
Okay.
that's where I just, but that whole like the word budget was like
You,
rolling around in my head while we were talking, and I'm like, and I just couldn't get it to feel comfortable to come out.
um,
So,
I don't know. Help me understand if this would be a fair statement. And if it's like way off base, I'm okay with you telling me no. You're so in love with your ability to do what you do that you think you'll just wow them and they'll buy because of your, because you're great. You are fantastic. Those of you that are looking right now, the design behind me, she did. And I want it 3D. It's got the mountains, it's got the colors of my fraternity. She did, I mean, she listened to me, she did a fantastic job. And I think that's what happens. You think you're going to overwhelm them with benefits and services, and so price won't be an issue.
mm, no, I mean,
Oh, okay. All right.
I feel like people just don't quite understand what goes into creating designs, whether it's a logo, in this aspect, yes, it's a logo, and there's a lot of like non-design work that is included in all of that. And so sometimes people just see the finished product and are like, well, I could have done that. And why does it cost so much? That kind of thing. And so
Because you're not dealing with it up front.
I know.
Janelle, can I jump in? Can I jump in
Yes,
then?
absolutely.
I would say like we were like that 6 months ago too. It was the most awkward conversation to have about people, budget, but obviously practice helps.
Yeah.
And now it's like one of the last questions that we ask, and it's great because say their budget is way lower than we're
That's
thinking.
what I always fear. Like it's going to be so low that it's like I can't even build
That's
bridge a
okay.
gap.
That's okay. Because then we kind of, we might say, we won't say you're crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll just kind of say, that's definitely, much lower than this kind of scope demands. Are you willing to, change the scope or change, increase the budget? Just so that when you have that presentation of your price, there's not like that shock factor either.
So what
Like
do you
people.
say at the end? Like,
So
what is your
we've been
question?
using do you mind telling us? I tried to do the round numbers thing, but do you mind telling us in, round numbers, what the investment range you were planning to make to fix this problem?
Okay.
Good for you. Good for
Okay.
you.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And honestly, sometimes people say, I don't know, we don't know. We want you to tell us. I mean, it's not foolproof, but
Right.
We've gotten a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, in both
Yeah.
your worlds, look, you guys with Mark, you guys and a lot of clients I've dealt with Remodeler's Advantage when they do a design concept up front and they charge for design up front. Somebody says, "Oh my God, $3,000! I mean, I can go down to Home Depot and their CAD program, they'll design the layout for me for free." And people want to start arguing with, "Yeah, but this." Why don't you just respond? Why do you think they have to give it away for free? See, sometimes we're working too hard. We're taking all this pressure to perform instead of throwing it back. So same thing with Janelle. Somebody, oh my God, why does it cost that much for design? Why do you think that a lot of programs, a lot of people will do it for free? And let them say it. Let them say, well, because they're trying to do it as a loss leader item. They're trying to get other business. Okay, so if I'm so much, why do you think so many people are hiring me? Well, you must be pretty good. Now they said it, not you. That's what I'm trying to get you to do is put things in such a question format that the client answers it instead of you having to do all this work. We're doing too much heavy lifting trying to negotiate, people's issues and challenges. You can't overcome somebody's objection. Only they can. And you do it by saying to them things like, hey, I get it. $3,000, probably more than you were expecting. But that's how we do our business. And we've been successful. We did 20 million in sales last year, offering design concepts up front. So if it's so expensive, why do you think so many people are hiring us? And let them say, well, they probably get a better design than going down to Menards or Home Depot. And they said it, not you. And if you haven't grasped this concept, prospects believe only half of what you tell them, but 100% of what they say. So your technique should be to get the client to say it instead of you telling them. And that's how we started this. Remember, if you're ending in a period, you're not selling, put it in a question format. Why do you think people are hiring us? Even though you could get a design on AI, you could go to ChatGPT and ask them to design a logo for you. So if that's the case, why are there still graphic designers? Well, because maybe they don't listen as well, or maybe it doesn't give you the concept. And now they said it, not you.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything on today's session? Let's really hope that each time we do one of these sessions, that you pick something that an action item you're actually going to work on. Because studies prove, and I've said it before, that if you do not take action on a new concept within 72 hours, you lose it. So if you don't take what we learn at each one of these sessions or either reinforce, remember, a lot of this stuff is reinforcement. You'll say to yourself, oh God, I heard Wayne talk about that 3 weeks ago, but you didn't do anything about it or you didn't engage. So start trying to implement those things. In your world, Janelle, it really should be, do you mind if I share with you my greatest fear when it comes to the budget? I've gone many times and gone back and designed great logos. People really loved them. But then what held us up was the money.
Well, I don't design until they know. I mean, we agree on the price before I even start.
But
So,
what do they?
but
So what did you do? So you agreed on the price with Joe?
not yet. I mean, that's when I send the estimate, if they sign the estimate, then they've agreed to the price,
Okay.
and so,
But that could be a full surprise to him. You could send him an estimate and he's going to go, oh my God. Or,
right,
or even the worst case scenario, that could be, oh my God, it's that cheap. Must not be very good.
right, right.
Right. I mean, I've had that happen to me, quite frankly. I had,
Yeah.
on a speaker's bureau right now, and the person said, their budget to have a keynote at their luncheon was $1,000. And I said, well, I'm local. I mean, most of those guys they're gonna figure in their travel costs. And since I'm local, I'll do it for 750. Oh my God, why is it that cheap? I should have put it in question, and I make the mistake. Suppose I said, since I'm local, I would probably charge less than some of these other guys. If I said that, would you think my concept or my training isn't as good as theirs? Oh no, probably not. 750, that sounds great. See, it's all how I had to word it. But again, everything I teach, even for me, it's so diametrically opposed to what we originally learned in sales about showing up and throwing up that we forget sometimes to put everything, and even I do. But that's why we do these reinforcement sessions. Otherwise, you just read my book and then you'll be done. You don't need any more.
Well,
So,
hey, I have to get out of here. My daughter has a medical thing that we have to go to, so
okay. See you guys later. Thank you.
all
Brett,
right.
you've been quiet. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I came in super late. But I've been using the I don't suppose any of those three resonate with you, like kind
Oh,
of
okay.
my
Sure.
pitch. So definitely want to expand on that, but yeah, it's probably not an issue for you.
Yeah, that surprises people. Typically, I work with clients who have this issue, and this issue. Probably none of those are challenges you're having. They wouldn't expect you because what'll happen is they'll come back. No, I'm having problems with this, this, and this.
Hmm.
Okay. Because again, you're doing the opposite of what they expected. Typically, people hire me because this and this and this. Those probably aren't any reasons why you'd hire me. And let them say, no, those are good reasons. That's it. No, they said it, not you. Okay. Anybody else? Brett, anything else? All right.
No, I like the well, I remember you said what would you need to change for us to have a conversation in the future? You had another line you like after that as well?
Let me pull it up here for a second here.
I'll
Let's see.
have to rewatch
What
it.
would need to change in September for you to move forward? What are the benefits of living with the issue for another 3 months?
Gotcha.
And regardless of when and who you choose, why would I be number one on your speed dial? Now, I know that's an older reference. Maybe some people don't get anymore, but
Yeah.
why would I be the first person you'd think of? Because that's what I want to know. Are we really waiting till September because it's an issue I can't overcome? Or if he gives me more information, maybe I can overcome the issue. Can't overcome the objection until I know the meaning behind it.
Hmm.
Okay. Is that what you want to know? It was again, the statement is, you know, what would have to happen differently for us to move forward in September?
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, that's helpful. I'll just have to rewatch it too.
I've got one right now that is a $5,000 boot camp training in Wisconsin, and the guy is, well, we want to hire another salesperson, so we're going to wait until we hire another salesperson, and then we'll bring you in to do the sales training. So the response I have is, so the issue is you don't want to pay for sales training now and then have somebody else come in. I get it, that makes sense. But if we record everything when I come in and do the boot camp training, and then the first day that you hire this new person, he can go through orientation and watch my videos. Would that help? He goes, I hadn't thought about that.
Hmm.
See? So again, if you got a problem now, I don't understand why you're not moving forward to fix it. Why are you willing to wait and live with the problem for 3 more months? I had one guy said, if you're willing to wait 3 more months, why not another 3 months after that? And then 3 years after that? I mean, if you're willing to not do anything about the problem now, must not be that big of a problem, must not be a priority. And I've had people say, yeah, I guess you're right. It's not that big of a priority. Okay. And now I'm not chasing them thinking every 3 months I'm going to call this guy.
Right. That saves you time.
Yeah. All right. If there's nothing else, I'm going to send everybody the link tomorrow so that if there's anybody I'm going to go over the excerpts of my book. It's Messages from Childhood to Hold Us Back. About 45 minutes of some of, and a lot of us need to realize that, yes, our conditioning from childhood, don't talk to strangers, with Janelle's don't take money from strangers, or even don't take money from your friends. We spend all this time doing bond and rapport with somebody, and then we have to ask them for money. And that's against what we were taught as kids. Don't take money from your friends or whatever. So we're going to go over that tomorrow at 2:00 Mountain Time. If anybody's interested, I'll send you it's a different video link. I'll send you that if anybody's interested. Okay. All right. I'll let you guys go. Appreciate you guys being my clients. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Let me know
thank
if I
you,
can
man.
help you. Okay. Bye.